All right, welcome. Today we're going to be doing a versus on the Sony Wh1000xm-4s, the Bose Nc700s, the new Apple AirPods Max, and the Beats Studio 3. The reason I chose these three in particular is because if you're going to a store like Best Buy or Walmart, you're more than likely going to have Bose, Sony, Beats there, and usually a section for Apple is in a lot of higher-end stores. The very first thing we're going to go over today is the case. Now, each case is a little bit different than the next. They're all made out of different materials. The Beats is out of this kind of rubber leather material in this circular case, which is one of my least favorite. The Apple AirPods Max, this classifies as a case for Apple. This doesn't have any protection for the top headband, and honestly is necessary to use and keep around with you to put this in low power mode. This case, right away, is the worst. No place for cables, no protection whatsoever. Bose is always gone with this semi-leather-like case. It's pretty strong, good hard shell, and it has a good convenient storage space for your cables, like your charging cable and your 3.5mm to 2.5mm auxiliary cable. And it's magnetic and very thin and portable. Lastly is the Sony's. The Sony's is the only one here with a little pouch on the outside for extra space, and I think their configuration inside is the best. It's similar to the Bose's old QC35s, where they have a built-in airplane adapter there, they have your cable, you have your charging cable, and it folds up nicely. When it comes to size, the Beats are technically the smallest for the cases, but since it's more circular in most bags and most situations, it's not going to be the best for packing. The Sonys are a little thicker than the Bose, just a little bit, but they have the smallest form factor in total, with the AirPods being, again, as I just said, the absolute worst. Now, when it comes to build quality and comfort, let's start first with the Sonys. Now, a brief overview of Sony's design and comfort is pretty simple. It's a traditional style pair of headphones that don't give you too much space inside of the cups, with a proximity sensor inside, pretty soft leather up top and bottom, and overall a little stiff, although one of the lightest, if not lightest, here. Now going on to the Bose. Bose does best with the insides of the cups. The insides of the cups with Bose are always been the most spacious. They have the best, softest leather. It's fake leather, protein leather, but it is very soft. The top headband doesn't feel that good when you first get it, but after some time, when it wears in like this one has, it feels really good. Now, the build quality itself for the Apple AirPods Max is the best. This is built the best. It's made out of aluminum, stainless steel, a whole slew of different materials, so this rubber-like leather up top, holding this cloth top band to this weird AirPods Max-like material for the ear cups. Now, the sound of the ear cups itself and the feel is kind of like a cloth seats from a Honda Civic or something, so I don't think these are the best ear cups. They're very spacious, like the Bose, that's actually a good solid, and are actually the easiest to replace the cups. So that's good for durability if you don't really mind the top headband too much. Now, going with the oldest design here is the Beats Studio 3. These have been a very, very well-aged design. They look one of the most sleek, and they have the best color options, and the materials of the leather feel soft. The inside of the foam padding is nice. The rubber padding up top is very thin and minimal, and it's not that comfortable. The comfort of these is the worst, with clamping force on your ears being so great to the point where it kind of hurts after just 20, 30, 40 minutes of listening to these things. And breaks are going to be needed. With another pair of headphones, the AirPods Max, comfort on these is actually phenomenal. Now, the AirPods Max are the heaviest here by 300 something grams versus 200, 250, 260, 270 respectively. But due to its design and how it distributes the weight, especially for bigger heads like mine, people with smaller heads, these are less comfortable with. These are actually very comfortable for me, as all the weights distribute very evenly and it doesn't have any good sharp points of tension. And after a few hours, I was able to forget these were on my head, and I wore them comfortably for extended periods. When it comes to comfort, though, no other company does better than Bose. These are the most spacious ear cups. The weight is very, very minimal. And while the top band is a little bit of a peer pressure more than the Apples, as those distribute more, this is still so light and comfortable that these are your best bet for extended period of times on an airplane or a road trip. When it comes to the Sonys are interesting. They're by all means built well, they have good materials, but one thing that you may notice for people with large ears like mine is that the inner foam inside of the pads tend to press against back your ear. And after a few hours of wearing them, you'd have to take breaks because of the pressure. My specific pair, the XM4s right here, have had the foam inside removed. I did this by taking off the cups and removing the foam, making these way more comfortable than they are from stock. Even though noise isolation is not as good, it is way, way more comfortable for people with that issue. Now, sound is the name of the game here. These all do different things better than the other, and they all have unique sound signatures. Starting with the Bose. Bose, in general, tends to have this nice, warm, rich sound to it. Now, it doesn't really do too well with very vigorous music. It tends to start to shit its pants. The Bose are the best, though, for that rich, soulful kind of music. The very warm tones and a lot of music comes off best in the Bose, and they feel the most friendliest for a lot of categories of music, like more modern country, for example. These do very well in. And also for more alternative hip-hops and soul-based kind of music, these are absolutely phenomenal. The AirPods Max is the most recent addition to this category. Now, the AirPods Max is fairly flat for the mids and lows. The lows are there, they have a little decent of a punch, but nothing too crazy. What these do best in is the highs. It has the most beautiful, crisp vocals of all of these. If you're listening to a very vocal heavy or very high-end treble-based music, these sound significantly better than any of these here. I was listening to Shakira specifically, and her voice sounded great. It sounded very detailed and rich, and it sounded perfect, and everything else was very respectable and neutral where it needed to be. These can be very neutral where they need to be, almost boring to some extent. But that is much better than some others, like the Bose, who tend to have it just kind of flat and a little muddy at some point, where it just can't get those highs and that much detail in as the AirPods Max do. These do phenomenally well with that. Now, the Sony Wh1000xm-4s, or the M4s I like to call them, these are one of my favorite sounding, if not my favorite sounding pair of headphones out of these four. And that's because it does the deepest bass as well and the highest highs well. It gets the tones of the music the best. Now, it doesn't do the vocals as well as the AirPods Max, but the tone of it, the pitch of the music, and the modulation is great. And no other pair of headphones here does more modern hip-hop generic music well with respecting the voice and all the variations of the beat without it becoming hollow or flattened out at some point. The Sonys are the most competent with the most generic kind of music and hip-hop and alternative music, which is my preference. Out of these four, for a brief overview for sound, the Beats Studio 3 were the most interesting. Now, the Beats Studio 3s were always the joker of this competition. They always performed well where I didn't think it would perform well. Now, it doesn't match the highs of the AirPods Max. It doesn't get the lows of the Sonys. It doesn't do the soul that the Bose has. But when it becomes very harsh, like metal or Zumba music, very challenging music, or very old music that has a wide variety of sounds that isn't so repetitive as it is harsh, these do phenomenally well. Harsh music for the Beats are its best category. And every other pair of headphones at some point or another with these harsh musics tend to kind of crap their pants versus the Beats, who somehow did well. Now the Beats by themselves don't sound amazing. The tones themselves tend to flatten out up top, and the Beats themselves punch pretty low, but they don't get deep and rich. They just flatten out and punch. And that makes these fine. But for people that like really harsh music, Zoom music, something that's very, very, very hard, that's very, very challenging for most headphones, these may do better than you expect. And that's what these did. Now, with all the time I had with these headphones, noise canceling was a very highly contested issue for me, based on how they treated it. Now, first off, for noise canceling, the Beats Studio 3 would start out $350 or $200 on sale here and there, but we're going for retail price with these. These are most frequently the cheapest. These are also the oldest, and the noise canceling technology on these really shows. The noise canceling on the Beats Studio 3s is all but average. It's barely noticeable that it's even there, and it only deals with the faintest of hums and pitches in the outside world. If you wear these in a car, for example, the road noise itself is barely muffled out and feels like you barely have any noise canceling at all. Now, it does do pretty well with some volumes like from a sync, where that constant higher pitch was canceled out more than I expected from the Beats, but these are the worst performers here for noise canceling. The AirPods Max are second place for noise canceling. Now, the AirPods Max do pretty well noise canceling. Now, their emphasis on noise canceling is on the lows, not the highs. So for higher pitched stuff like a sync, it doesn't do that well. You hear it pretty well, and people's voices are fairly noticeable. However, in a car or for lower hums like air conditioner or around people, which admittedly that is the least amount of time I've had with any of these is around crowds, these do very well. Low pitches pretty much all but disappear with only sharper tones of people talking to you, for example, being anything but audible. I was actually really impressed with these, and I think they do pretty darn well. It's ambient mode that has, by clicking this button right here, is by far my favorite of all of these. Now, like the Bose and the Sonys, you do sound more artificial when the noise canceling is down and you're trying to get the outside world in. But everyone around me, however, sounded way more natural than its competitors, and I think these did very well. For first place, though, it's a tie. For first place, the Bose and the Sony went head to head so much I couldn't tell the difference. These both emphasize on everything, not just the lows, not the highs, just a flat curve of noise canceling, which means you put these Sonys on or the Bose on, they're gonna knock out the lows, the highs, the people around you, and everything. Now, the Bose themselves tend to do a little bit better with people, and I think the Sonys do just a little bit better with outside world things happening going on. I think they do deal with that just a little bit better. But between the two, the biggest difference for any noise canceling is their version of ambient modes, or their lower noise canceling versions. Now, Bose has a very good level range of noise canceling where they were the most noticeable between 0, 5, and 11. And when you go on the Sony's app and change up their noise canceling volumes, the difference was less linear than I thought, and they weren't as noticeable. The Bose feel the most natural with the noise canceling, but they have just about as pressure as the Sonys. Now, the person that has the most natural of them all for noise canceling is the AirPods Max, and that's solely to deal with its material choice, which is cloth, is very breathable. So on these, the pressure on the AirPods Max was next to none, as the Bose and the Sonys had a little bit more pressure. I personally had the least amount of cabin pressure of the Bose and Sonys in the Sonys, but some other people have said otherwise. So for these, the Sony and the Bose are very indistinguishable. AirPods, second place. Beats, dead last, unfortunately. Now when it comes to which pair of headphones is the best for you, we're going to start fourth place to first. And fourth place is the Beats Studio 3s. Now, make no mistake, these are the oldest here. And I'm expecting in 2021, hopefully not 2022, that these get redesigned and get a lot more love than they deserved. They're $350. about the same price as the Sonys, which are the cheapest of these three, but these go on sale the most. These go as low as $200. So for its value, it's pretty good, even though it does have some little features like micro USB, and the controls on this is my least favorite, being this kind of cheap feeling plastic click, which I'm just not a fan of. The third place for this has to go to the AirPods Max. Now, why third place? A part of it has to do with its price. Now, these would be second if it didn't cost $550. And these are so new, I don't know what the sales price is. If these went as low as $350 or $300 on sale, oh, these are second place. And they'll replace my second place, you'll see soon. Because the AirPods Max feel very natural to me, they feel very comfortable, and the controls for them feel premium and intuitive, and the build quality is phenomenal. And the sound for certain songs, when it emphasizes on treble, is absolutely beautiful on these. And for a lot of people that aren't into really bass heavy soul kind of music, like the Bose and the Sonys would be better for, these would be an obvious pick for people. But for me, for its value, for what these are, they have to go third. Now for second place, it's the Bose Nc700s. Now, why not first place? There's one reason that these aren't first place. And it's mainly because on more difficult songs, these kind of crap their pants. These start to get very muddy and very harsh at certain volumes and very certain frequencies that are in certain songs. And that harshness on some songs like Majesty, for example, sounds really satisfying, and I actually really like that. It's really good. But for some songs, when it does the harshness by kind of just being on the limit, it's very abrasive and hurting to my ears. I don't find it that satisfying. Now, the Bose have the smallest amount of room for its touchpad. They're the hardest to use for the controls, in my opinion. But they have the best mics, they have the best comfort, and besides the software, which Bose's software is pretty terrible, the Bose are phenomenal, and I would recommend them to anyone that really likes just that lower end, mid-heavy, soulful kind of music. I think if you like that, if you like that mood kind of music on certain songs like by Kane Brown, for example, these will be the ones for you, so you will not regret these. The Sonys are first place for me. The Sony Wh1000xm-4s are $350 versus $400 for the Bose Nc700s. Now, just like the Bose, these go on sale quite often, even more than the Bose. The Bose can cost around $300 on sale. These cost as low as like $260, $250, $270 on sale. These are on sale versus the AirPods Max, a lot of the times half the price. So they're pretty good value. Now, the modification I had to do to make them more comfortable will be a little scary to some people because removing the foam pad seems like kind of a bad thing. But after you do that, its comfort is, well, third place to the AirPods Max and the Bose, but they're so good at this point, it's just like comparing which professional athlete's best versus you. These are way better regardless. So the comfort is fine, but the sound itself and the way it delivers bass notes, for example, and the way it just has the widest range of the lows is very noticeable to me. And after an extended period of time listening song to song to song to song on all of these headphones, these tended to not be last the most. Now in certain songs, every single one of these have been first and last. It just depends on the category of the song, how it deals with this. These are very competitive between the four. But if you are going into the store looking for the best headphones you can buy, my recommendations would be Sony, Bose, Apple, Beats. Thank you for watching. Please like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you loved it, and please ask any questions you have down below. I do check them regularly, and I'll have more videos coming up by the end of this year and next year in 2021. Thank you.